Most of us have a problem when it comes to fitness, and it goes something like this. What I say that I'm going to do, I don't actually do. Now, if you're individual, that's a frustration that probably at some point in time we've all felt. If you're a coach, it's a frustration that you feel with your clients. Now, I'm here to talk about why that is. What if there was a framework? What if there was a system where you could actually almost demand that your clients are adherent, that not only are they adherent, but they actually improve their retention. They increase their love for what it is that you do long term. That sounds like a gimmick. This video is not a gimmick. This is a tutorial, a sneak peek at this process that we have developed and one that I want to share with you. My name is Spencer Nix. I run a strength conditioning facility called Behavior and Performance Research. After 15 years of experimenting, I've come to a conclusion that all of us can potentially go through this process. I feel like shit. I get in better shape, yet I quite possibly still feel like I'm not where I should be. And the reason for that is because there's more that's going on with improving people's health than just the biology. There's more that goes on with this process than just reps and sets and the process of what happens on the training floor. I had a revelation a few years ago. I went to grad school for neuroscience and applied cognition, and I realized that there was a series of tools, fancy words like logotherapy, performance psychology, narrative traction, that actually could be applied to the world of fitness. What we've done is we've incorporated these things of psychology paired with just the mathematics and the simple rules of thumb of progression that we know and love through strength and conditioning. And we've come up with this process that I haven't seen anywhere else. And that's one of the reasons that I'm coming to you. We realize that when we partner these things, it allows people to live lives of adventure, of purpose. It creates a completely different connotation of why we're in the gym training, which isn't just to keep from being fat. Now, what this isn't is it's not some snake oil, salesy, bikini boot camp bullshit, pardon my French. This is a framework. It's a system. It's a system that you can provide for your clients that will allow some individualization. You start with the notes on the page, and the space in between those notes is where you get to improvise. The space in between the notes is where you get to allow for some customization. We've used this at BPR as basically a test kitchen to practice some of these things. And here's some interesting results. We have people that come in and they, like probably most people, just want to remove pain from range of motion. They want to remove excess body fat. They want to increase their vitality. What we've done is we've flipped that paradigm on its head. We have a guy named Marcus that needed to lose 100 pounds. What we did instead is that we determined that he had a knack and a desire to be as strong as he could. We entered him into a powerlifting competition, and just as a result, he lost 100 pounds. I could tell you about Stephen Hill that came in with an ACL tear. His goal was just to repair the tear and to try to not have any pain when he stood up and he sat down. We determined that what he really desired was to go climb the Swiss Alps. He went and did that. As a result, he can dunk a basketball and he doesn't have any knee pain. Do you see what I'm alluding to? We have to change the paradigm with which we're approaching this thing called training. Now, you can probably remember a time in your life where you had something you were really motivated about. As a kid, maybe you played a sport. As an adult, maybe you decided to sign up for a 5K or a sprint triathlon. By having that defined end date in place, you found these new levels of excitement, of enthusiasm. And so that's definitely a component of what I want to explain to you today. So I really hope that you'll watch till the end of the video because I'm going to break this out into specific components. But having something that is arbitrary as it might be to train for is absolutely necessary. What isn't as explicit are the preconditions that have to be there, the way that you actually break this down and reverse engineers that things that you may not actually have any experience with as a coach. And then the process of reassimilating into regular training where you may be in between these experiences or particulars that you're training for. But what we found is that if you have nothing to train for, you have no purpose. And if you have no purpose, you have no buy-in for your client to actually stay and adhere to the ways that we know that you can really help their health and just their life in general. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to launch into these 6 criteria that we've determined are absolutely essential to create the secret sauce for progress in a way to have your clients be really tickled with the training that you're providing them long term. Number 1, you need to draft who it is that they want to become. Now, in the world of health and fitness, this isn't a new concept, but there are some novel ways with which you can go about this, ways that I haven't seen in all the education that I've got. Jordan Peterson, who most people know, has a program called Future Authoring, where with pen and pad and in the narrative format, you draft this document that includes who it is that you want to become. We have a very detailed process that we've taken our clients through where we determine things like skill, experience, aptitudes, and things along the lines of the person that you quite possibly didn't realize that you wanted to become. The more clear and granular we are there, it's the first step along this line of making fitness isn't something that we have to do, and it's making fitness something that we get to do. Now, most people jump right into the how. Most people jump right into, I'm fat, I need to lose weight, and so how do I do that? But this component of understanding who you are and why that's so integral is really, really foundational to this process that we're explaining. Now, after we get that on paper and after we draft it, there's a second part. And the second part is even more exciting for the client than the first part. The second part is actually crafting this draft. The draft isn't perfect, right? There's lots of components of that where you look at it and you say, I don't know if I really think that or if I really want that. But the second part, instead of looking forward and projecting ahead, is to actually look back. It's to determine the things that you've done already in your life that had a very rewarding experience for you. We call this aptitude. Aptitude is synonymous with giftedness, and that doesn't mean that you're world class at something. It means that you have very low friction to doing these things. We trap these stories on paper. We incorporate it into the future authoring that you want to become. And through that, we can see these patterns. We can see these tendencies that if we incorporated this into what we were doing, it would make it, dare I say, more pleasurable. It would make the friction significantly reduced, and it would be totally in line with the person that you uniquely are. Now, after we draft, after we craft, we supercharge. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, one of the secrets to traction. And it's to actually define a way that you can experience that. Now, the ancient Japanese word is a misogi. And what that refers to is this sacred ritual, this cleansing process where you go and you experience something that you'll never be the same from again afterwards. Now, in modern times, this is actually coming up with something that is quantifiable, it's definable. It could be an adventure, or it could be something that you do in your backyard, but it's creating something. It's supercharging this process of identity and this process of aptitude into something that we actually train for. If we're thinking of your life as a story, we've already created the hero. We've already figured out what it is that he wants to accomplish or she wants to accomplish with their life. And this is actually the call to adventure. This is the way that we create this sweeping narrative that you want to be a part of. Now, some characteristics of a misogi is that success isn't a sure thing. We want to make this audacious and difficult enough that you have to become a different person in order to accomplish it. There's going to be a potential that you fail. We don't want it to be life-threatening, but we do want it to be something that requires your attention. But it's something that you feel like it's totally in line with these previous steps of drafting and crafting that makes sense for the person that you want to become. Now, in those first 3 steps, that's more of the psychology around this. It seems like a lot of time spent, but it's absolutely paramount for us to have experienced the results with our clients that we've gotten so far. From there, we switch gears and we actually think a little bit more right-brained. We think a little bit more logistics. We think, hey, for this adventure, for this misogi that we've determined, what are the characteristics that we need to plan for? The very next step is to actually assess. We have to determine what the gap is for each one of the clients and participants that are going through that. There's a proprietary way that will break that down for you, and it looks like determining the strength, stamina, and range of motion requirements for that test, and then reverse engineering what the time frame looks like for preparation, but also what those key components are in what degree and magnitude. After we determine the gap, we actually create a plan, and we want to walk you through the steps of how we do that. Now, between us coaches, we actually take a framework within a framework, and we use that as a template to plug in the activity, to plug in the intensity, to plug in the volume. And we use this every single time, and it's something that we want to share. And then the 6th step is to actually figure out how we come down off the mountain. How do we come back from this little experience that has broadened who we are? How do we reassimilate into group classes potentially? How do we continue to perform some of those things that we did within this misogi that we want to hang on to? How do we figure out a way to recap what we've experienced from a physiological standpoint, but also a psychological standpoint? And it's those 6 criteria that I'm presenting to you as a way, not just that you can hear this video and shake your head and be like, oh, that's cool, but a way that you can actually participate. We're calling this the Action Training Program, or ATP for short. This is a 6-week cohort that we will do live through Zoom starting on June 5th. This is designed for the coach in mind, but you're going to learn by doing. That means there's no free lunch here. We're going to take you through the process of drafting, of crafting, of supercharging this experience by creating your own misogi, and then having you experience what it looks like to take that adventure and reverse engineer how to train for it. By the end of this, you'll have, well, obviously prepared for whatever experience you want to have, but more importantly, you figured out a way to create greater buy-in. This is the secret sauce for progress, in our opinion, in a way that you can provide greater value to your clients and ultimately greater satisfaction for the experience that they get to have with you. The process, if you're interested, is to click the button that's attached to this video and schedule a call. I'm sure you have questions. I'm sure that there's things that I haven't covered in this video. If this isn't something that you're interested in, then you probably haven't made it to the end of this video. But if you have, and if you're like me, then you want to do everything that you can to make your clients' lives better. And like I said in the beginning, I haven't found anything like this that's incorporating multidimensionals of health into one product. So I hope that you'll join us. There's limited spots available because each week we're going to be doing a live Zoom call. We'll be dividing you into a coach and athlete pairing, even though you're a coach yourself. And within the 6 weeks, there'll also be a one-on-one coaching session where you get to see exactly how we break this down for our clients here at BPR. Again, if this is something that you're interested in, we hope that you'll click the button for this discovery call. It starts June 5th, and nothing would be cooler than to get to share and experience this thing that's been really awesome for us as facilitators and that we think could be valuable for you.